My name is Margaret, and I have lived a long, fulfilling life. I raised my only daughter, Julia, with love, patience, and all the sacrifices a mother can make. I never thought she would grow up to betray me in the cruelest way possible. It all began on a quiet Sunday afternoon. My phone rang, and it was Julia. Her voice was cold, distant. "Mom," she said, "we're leaving tomorrow. Your beach house has already been sold. Bye." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My heart sank, and my hands trembled. That beach house was not just property, it was the heart of my late husband's dream. He had built it with his own hands, brick by brick, as a gift to me when we were young. Every corner of that house carried his memory. I took a deep breath and forced myself to stay calm. I replied, "But you forgot one thing." She sounded annoyed. "What are you talking about?" I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud, not because I found it funny, but because Julia had no idea what she had just done. She thought she was clever, but the truth was, she had walked straight into a trap she didn't even know existed. The house she claimed to have sold was not what she thought it was. Years ago, after my husband passed away, I made some important legal changes. Julia believed she had control over the beach house, but in reality, to be continued. I paused for a long moment before answering Julia's question. My daughter had always been impatient, and I could sense her irritation through the phone. "Mom, stop talking in riddles," she snapped. "The papers are signed. The money is already in my account. The beach house is gone. You can't do anything about it now." I let out another laugh, softer this time. "Julia, you really think you outsmarted me, don't you? But you forgot the most important detail." She went silent. For a second, I imagined her face, confident, smug, certain she had finally taken control. "Mom, what detail?" she finally asked. I leaned back in my chair, memories flooding my mind. After my husband died 15 years ago, I was terrified that one day my only child might try to take everything he and I had built together. Julia had grown up with a hunger for wealth, a need to prove herself better than everyone else. She married a man who encouraged that greed. So I met with a lawyer, quietly, without telling Julia. I transferred the beach house into a trust fund under my name. Legally, it could never be sold without my approval. The house that Julia thought she sold, it wasn't the beach house at all. "Julia," I said calmly, "the house you sold belongs to me, but not the one you think. You sold the little rental property on Elm Street, the one your father bought years ago for barely anything. The papers you signed weren't for the beach house. You were tricked by your own husband's lawyer." There was silence. I could almost hear her breathing quicken on the other end of the line. "What are you saying, Mom?" she whispered. "I'm saying," I replied firmly, "that your greed blinded you. You tried to steal from me, but you ended up selling the wrong house. The beach house is safe. It will always be safe." For the first time in years, I felt a strange mix of sadness and power. My daughter, my only child, had tried to rob me, and yet she had failed because of her own arrogance. "Julia," I said, my voice trembling but steady, "I gave you everything in life, love, education, comfort, but you chose betrayal, and betrayal has a price." Her voice cracked. "Mom, please, you don't understand." But I did understand, more than she realized. And in that moment, I made a decision that would change both of our lives forever. To be continued. The line was still quiet. Julia didn't know how to respond. I could hear her muffled sobs through the phone, but I didn't feel pity. At least, not anymore.
For so many years, I had ignored the signs. Julia's obsession with money, her constant complaints that I hadn't given her enough, even though she had everything a daughter could ever want. I told myself she would change after marriage, but her husband only fueled the greed inside her. Together, they saw me not as a mother, but as an obstacle standing in their way. Now, it was clear. She had finally tried to destroy me. "Julia," I said slowly, my voice firm, "you've crossed a line. This isn't just about property. This is about betrayal. Your father would be heartbroken if he were alive to see this." Her sobs grew louder. "Mom, please, you don't understand. We needed the money. We have debts. I cut her off. "Don't lie to me. I've seen the vacations you take, the designer clothes you buy, the way you live. That's not survival. That's greed. Pure greed." There was silence again, and in that silence, I realized something. I couldn't let this continue. If I forgave her now, she would only try again. If I stayed silent, she would think she had power over me. No, it was time to teach her a lesson, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. "Julia," I said firmly, "from this day forward, you will have no access to any of my properties. Not the beach house, not the rental homes, not even my bank accounts. I am changing everything. You and your husband will receive nothing from me." Her voice cracked with panic. "Mom, no, you can't do that. I'm your daughter." "Yes," I said sadly, "you are my daughter. But a daughter who betrays her mother is no daughter at all." I could almost hear her drop the phone, her sobs echoing in the background. My heart ached. A part of me wanted to comfort her, to take back my words. But I stayed strong, because I knew if I gave her another chance, she would only hurt me again. That night, I sat at my husband's old desk in the beach house, looking at the faded photographs of us smiling, young and hopeful. I thought about all the years I had worked so hard to keep our family together, and now it felt like it was falling apart. But then I reminded myself, sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes protecting what we built means protecting it even from those we love. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I gave him clear instructions. Every asset, every piece of property, every dollar I owned would be placed in a trust with strict conditions. Julia would receive nothing, not now, not in the future, unless she proved she had truly changed her life. It was the hardest decision I ever made. But as I signed the papers, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Still, deep inside, I wondered, would Julia come back to me, not for money, but for forgiveness? Or had I lost her forever? Only time would tell. To be continued.
Days turned into weeks, and I didn't hear from Julia. The silence was heavy, but I refused to be the one to call her first. I had given her my decision, and now it was her turn to choose, love or greed. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the ocean, painting the sky in gold and crimson, there was a knock on my beach house door. I opened it, and there she stood, Julia. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hair messy, her once proud expression completely gone. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "Mom, can I come in?" I hesitated. My heart screamed yes, but my mind told me to be cautious. Finally, I nodded and stepped aside. She walked in slowly, her eyes scanning the house, almost as if she was seeing it for the first time. "I don't deserve to be here," she said, her voice trembling. "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. I let money control me, Mom. I let my husband push me into things I never should have done. But the truth is, it wasn't just him. It was me too. I thought if I had more, I'd finally be happy. But now I see I've lost everything that really matters. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But I had been fooled before. Julia, words are easy. Regret is easy. But change? Change is hard. She fell to her knees, clutching my hand. Please, Mom, I'm begging you. I don't care about the money anymore. I just want my mother back. My chest tightened. For the first time in years, I saw not the greedy woman she had become, but the little girl I once held in my arms. The girl who used to run to me after school. The girl who used to cry when she scraped her knee. My daughter. My only daughter. But I couldn't give in so quickly. If you're telling the truth, Julia, I said carefully, then prove it. Walk away from the life you built on lies and greed. Leave your husband if he refuses to change. Find work, live honestly, and show me that you are not the same woman who tried to steal from me. Only then will I even consider forgiving you. Her face paled, and I knew this was the moment of truth. She had to choose. And then, with a shaky breath, she said, I will. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll start over. Just don't stop loving me, Mom. I pulled her into my arms, and for the first time in months, I held her close. Tears ran down both of our faces. I didn't know if she would keep her promise. I didn't know if she would truly change. But at least in that moment, there was hope. Hope that love could be stronger than greed. Hope that my daughter might still come back to me. To be continued. The weeks that followed were some of the most uncertain days of my life. Julia had promised me she would change, but I had heard many promises before. This time, I chose to watch her actions, not her words. At first, she called me every evening. Her voice sounded calmer, more humble. She spoke about applying for jobs, about trying to live without the constant pressure of wealth and luxury. I listened, though a part of me wondered, was this another performance? Then, one afternoon, she came to visit again, but this time she was alone. No expensive jewelry, no designer clothes, no husband by her side. She looked tired, but also different, lighter, almost free. I left him, she said simply, standing in the doorway of my beach house. I raised my eyebrows. Your husband? She nodded. Yes, he refused to change. He wanted me to keep chasing money, to keep manipulating you, but I couldn't do it anymore. So I packed my bags and walked out. For the first time in years, I believed her. Not completely, but enough to let her sit beside me. Over the next few months, Julia began to rebuild her life. She found work at a small bookstore in town. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest. She rented a modest apartment and started living within her means. Sometimes she would visit me, bringing groceries or helping me with the garden. She laughed more, cried less, and for the first time in a long while, I could see the daughter I once knew returning. But trust is fragile, and scars run deep. One evening, while helping me sort old papers, Julia found a file containing the documents for my properties. I noticed the way her eyes lingered on the numbers, the value of the estates. For a split second, I saw the old hunger flash in her gaze. My heart skipped a beat. She looked up quickly and closed the file. Sorry, Mom, I shouldn't have looked. I forced a smile, but inside, doubt gnawed at me. Was she truly changing, or was she waiting for the right moment to strike again? That night, as I lay in bed listening to the waves crash outside the beach house, I realized something. Maybe Julia really was trying to change. But temptation. Temptation is a shadow that never fully disappears. And the true test of her character was yet to come, because I knew sooner or later life would give her a choice: love
or greed. And this time, there would be no second chances. To be continued. It had been almost a year since Julia promised to change, and for the most part, she kept her word. She worked at the bookstore, she paid her rent on time, and she no longer lived the extravagant lifestyle she once thought she deserved. But one day, temptation came knocking. Julia's husband, her ex-husband now, showed up at her apartment. He looked desperate, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes. "Julia," he begged, "I need your help. I lost everything. The debts are crushing me. But if we could just get your mother to release some of her assets, we could start over. We could be rich again." Julia froze. Old feelings rushed back. Anger, greed, hunger for the life she once thought she deserved. She remembered the fancy vacations, the expensive clothes, the attention. For a brief moment, she almost agreed. But then she thought of me, of the night she fell to her knees begging for forgiveness, of my words, "Prove it. Show me you can live honestly." She shook her head. "No, I won't betray her again. I won't betray myself again." Her ex-husband's face twisted with rage. "You're a fool. She's just controlling you. Without her money, you're nothing." Julia's voice cracked, but she stood her ground. "Then I'd rather be nothing than lose my mother's love again." With that, she slammed the door in his face. Her hands trembled, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, she had chosen love over greed. The very next morning, she came to see me. I was in the garden, trimming roses, when she rushed up and wrapped her arms around me. "Mom," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks, "he came back. He tried to pull me in again. But I said no. I chose you. I chose us." I dropped the shears, my own eyes filling with tears. For the first time, I truly believed her. This wasn't just words. This was change. I held her tightly. "Julia, my sweet girl, this is what your father would have wanted. Not wealth, not property, just honesty, love, and family." From that day forward, things began to heal. Our relationship was still fragile, but it was real. Trust was slowly being rebuilt, piece by piece. And as we watched the waves crash against the shore that evening, Julia whispered, "The house isn't just yours, Mom. It's ours. A place for family, a place for love." For the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe her. And in that moment, I knew perhaps the beach house would not only hold the memories of the past, but also the hope of a better future. To be continued. The days after Julia's choice were different. For the first time in many years, peace had returned to my heart. She had faced temptation, and this time she had chosen me. Not wealth, not greed, not the lies of her husband. But I knew one test wasn't enough. True change doesn't happen in a single moment. It's a long journey, and Julia still had much to prove. One afternoon, we sat together on the porch of the beach house, the salty breeze brushing our faces. Julia looked out at the horizon, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hope. "Mom," she said quietly, "I don't expect you to forgive me fully yet. I don't expect you to hand me back trust or property. I just want a second chance to be your daughter again." Her words cut deep because that was all I had ever wanted, to have my daughter back. "You don't need money for that, Julia," I said softly. "You just need honesty and love. If you can give me those, then you've already given me more than enough." She reached for my hand, and for the first time in decades, I felt her grip not as a stranger's, but as my child's. In the following months, Julia proved herself again and again. She worked hard, not for riches, but for dignity.
She volunteered at a local shelter, helping children who had no one. She spent weekends at the beach house, fixing broken things, repainting walls, planting flowers in the garden her father once loved. Every little act healed the cracks between us. Then, one evening, I made a decision. I invited Julia to sit with me in the living room. On the table were 2 envelopes. She looked nervously. "What is this?" she asked. I smiled faintly. One envelope contains the legal deed to the beach house. The other is empty. You must choose one. If you pick the wrong one, you get nothing. If you pick the right one, the house is yours. Her eyes widened. "Mom, why would you do this to me?" "Because," I said firmly, "I need to know what you value more, the house or me. Think carefully." Her hands shook as she reached for the envelopes, but then she stopped. She pushed both envelopes back toward me. "I don't need to open them," she whispered, "because the house doesn't matter. You matter. If keeping the house means losing you, then I don't want it. Keep everything, Mom. Just don't take your love away from me." Tears welled in my eyes. Slowly, I slid one envelope toward her. "Open it," I said. She hesitated, then tore it open. Inside was the deed to the beach house. Her mouth fell open. "Mom, you're giving it to me?" I nodded, tears rolling down my cheeks. "Yes, because you finally understand. This house was never about money. It was about family, love, and memory. If you can carry those things in your heart, then you deserve it." Julia threw her arms around me, crying like a child. "I won't let you down. Not again, Mom, I swear." And in that embrace, all the years of pain and betrayal melted away. From that day on, the beach house wasn't just mine, it was ours. A place of healing, of second chances, of love stronger than greed. Whenever I walked along the shore, I thought of my husband, smiling down on us. His dream hadn't been destroyed. It had been saved, not just in bricks and walls, but in the bond between mother and daughter. For in the end, the greatest inheritance isn't a house or land or wealth. It is forgiveness. It is love. And finally, we had both found it.